Hello. This has been such a wonderful evening, first of all. And second of all, I'm Ellie. I am an actress, and I've mostly worked in comedy so far. I did once play a veterinarian's assistant in an instructional video on how to be a veterinarian's assistant. But I was like the bad veterinarian's assistant, so I was always misplacing syringes and like I was insensitive to the animals. So it was sort of a dark role. That's my only piece of drama I've really done so far. I've mostly done comedy. And as very graciously mentioned, I was in the movie Bridesmaids, which was a big comedy that came out about 2 years ago, and was a movie about a woman getting married and her bridesmaids. And some of the questions that we got during promotion of that movie were about being women in comedy. And that made sense because we were all women in comedy. But there was one question that I found to be sort of distracting, and that question was, how did it feel to be in a movie with so many funny women? And the reason I think I find that question distracting is that implicit in that question is a sense of surprise that women are funny. And I've been working very hard on this metaphor. Is that music? Oh, okay. Someone agrees with me, yeah. But I can liken getting that question to this, and I've worked very hard on this metaphor, so stay with me. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. I felt like when people would ask that question, I felt like I was at a cocktail party, and I was over by the apps, the appetizers, slang, and there were so many good smells. There was like cheeseburger sliders and chicken tenders, spanakopita, like so many good things coming off the appetizer buffet. And I'm smelling these good smells, and I'm talking to my friends, and I'm really enjoying the cocktail party. And then my coworker comes over, and I like my coworker, but unfortunately my coworker has that bad cocktail party breath. And I know everyone knows what I'm talking about because it's the holidays and like cocktail parties and the accompanying bad breath is in full swing. It's sort of like a hot, like sour wine. I feel like there's often pesto in there. It's like, there's shrimp inexplicably because there's no shrimp. I don't know if she's coming from another cocktail party, but she smells. Her breath smells. And it's distracting because I was having a great conversation, and now there's this like hot, sour, stale breath in the air. And that's how I feel about that question. So the cocktail party breath is a very good metaphor. I would feel free to use it in your own lives. It's very good. But I found that question to be distracting. And I think that one of the reasons I found it to be distracting is that I had done improv comedy in New York for many years before Bridesmaids, and I had also been on The Office for about 2 years. And I never felt odd for being a woman in either of those comedy worlds, and I know that I owe that to many women who came before me, but that is a separate talk. I'm just bringing it up to point out, I think, why I thought that question was distracting, because to me, it didn't seem surprising to be in a movie with a lot of funny women. Now, I understand why reporters were asking that question. Reporters need an angle to their story, and the question, which at its core is, are women funny, was very much in the zeitgeist at that time. In 2007, Christopher Hitchens wrote an interesting essay for Vanity Fair called Why Women Aren't Funny. And in it, well, he explains why he thinks women aren't funny. And it ignited a lot of conversation and some outrage and some amusement and whatever. It got the question, are women funny, really going again? So along comes a movie called Bridesmaids, and it's a comedy, and it stars a primarily female ensemble cast with the exception of St. Louis's Prince, John Hamm. Wow! But other than John Hamm, it was a principal female cast. So of course, this is an easy fit for a story about that movie, the question, are women funny? Now here's my problem with that question. It's not that it's offensive or sexist. It's that it's boring. Because I can answer the question for you right now. Are women funny? Well, it's boring, but it's more than a one-word answer. Are women funny? Yes. Some women are funny. And no, some women aren't funny. Right? It's similar to how some women are tall, and some women are short. It's like how some women like to ride the train while others prefer to take the bus. Women are different. So, yeah. So that's what I think sort of about that question. One thing Bridesmaids did do, which was really good, was it demonstrated to studios that you can make big studio comedies with interesting, funny female characters, and men will go to see it. And that was fantastic. A.O. Scott wrote a great piece about this in the New York Times when the movie came out. And I agree with a lot of his points, and one of them was that it seems like for a while there was a real dearth of funny, interesting female characters in those big studio comedies. And what we were seeing instead in those movies were women who were primarily nags or scolds or otherwise getting in the way of the guy's good time. And maybe that happens because there's an idea out there that teenage boys who buy tickets to those movies aren't afraid of those women because they pose no threat. And the great thing about Bridesmaids is that the teenage boys did buy tickets to go see it. Alex is a teenage boy who's here. I hope he saw it, or with an adult. I don't know if he's under 17. Teenage boys did go to see this movie. So did men in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s, and one lone gentleman in his 90s. My grandpa. Yes. Surprisingly, my grandpa did not care for the explosive diarrhea scene. And that makes him a sexist. No, he loved the explosive diarrhea. No, he didn't. That's okay. People don't have to like everything. But that was great that so many men went to see this movie because it showed studios that they can keep making movies, specifically big studio comedies, with interesting, funny females, and that both men and women will go to see it, so we get to see more of these characters on screen. And that's great. Okay. That's very good. But my point here, because a lot of stuff was written assuming that Bridesmaids somehow proved that women are funny. And it didn't prove that women are funny. Of course, women have always been funny in movies since the dawn of cinema. So it did prove that my grandpa is a very good sport. Last spring, GQ magazine asked me to write a humorous piece in response to the Christopher Hitchens essay, Why Women Aren't Funny. And because that sounded like fun to me, and also because Christopher Hitchens was dead, so I knew that he couldn't come after me. And not even his ghost could come after me because he is an atheist and there is no afterlife. I felt like, sure, I will give this a shot. So I'm going to read an excerpt from that piece, and as a preface, I'm joking around in this article, okay? This is jokes, okay? Reading a chapter from Warren Buffett's Tap Dancing to Work the other day, I was surprised to find myself chuckling out loud. Now, this guy is kind of funny, I thought to myself as I turned the page and grabbed another Danish. This guy is kind of making me laugh. And those thoughts that I had quietly, in my head, to myself, made me realize just how rarely I do have those thoughts in my head. And that thought led me to another thought, which was, why is that? Why, on the whole, are men just not that funny? I can't exactly figure this out. Here are some of my favorite comedic performances ever. Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman. Sigourney Weaver, Gorillas in the Mist. Very funny movie. The Little Lady, Three Men and a Little Lady. David Bowie, Labyrinth. Now notice how many of these performers are women. All of them. Sure, that might not be the most scientific study in the world, but nobody ever said I was a scientist. Frankly, I could never be a scientist because I don't exactly understand cells. I'm not a nerve surgeon. Hey, guys, do you want to know a secret? You don't have to be funny in order to attract us. Believe us, between your scalps and your calves, you've already got us. Your narrow, decrescendoing hips and your really very hairy thighs, they leave us breathless and wanting more. The truth is, there is no evolutionary cause for you to have to be funny. And precisely because your ancestors and your ancestors' grandparents and your ancestors' grandparents' grandparents and so on had no procreative need to be funny, you literally do not have it in your DNA. We women, on the other hand, with our sumptuous breasts and our shapely hips, we have to be funny in order to survive. Our curves render us useless for just about anything except cracking wise and firing quips. Sometimes our breasts are so big that we actually can't move. We have no choice but to sit very still and come up with joke after joke. Sometimes, and this is rare, but sometimes our hips are so wide that we cannot fit through the door of the comedy club that our coworkers dragged us to after happy hour. And so the only option available to us is to sit inside the comedy club, absorbing comedy act after comedy act, and in so doing, completing the full transformation from comedy student to comedy master. Okay, the joke's over. Now, I wrote that piece in an attempt to be funny, and one of the first comments on the GQ website was from someone called Throwaway Comment. That was his username, Throwaway Comment. And Throwaway Comment said this: I made an account just to say this. Throwaway comment. Classic. Really poor concept for an article. In particular, I have to take major, all caps, major offense to this particular statement. The truth is, there is no evolutionary cause for you to have to be funny. Are you kidding me? Really? Have you never ever met a male who wasn't really attractive? Or have you never paid attention to them? Because let me let you in on a little secret. Those of us men who can't get, this part is sad, those of us men who can't get ladies through looks alone, and that would be most of us, we have to have a serious evolutionary cause to develop other skills. And seriously, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, John Cleese, Lenny Bruce, Jim Gaffigan, just to name a few out of hundreds, aren't funny? Huh, well, I guess all of us fans must be wrong then. So Throwaway Comment clearly didn't think my article was funny at all. And that's fine, because you can't tell someone what to think is, you can't speak, you can't tell people what to find funny. People will either find something funny or they won't. And that is the idea I want to put out there today, which is that people have different senses of humor. And so I think that we can put the question of are women funny to rest, because people will disagree about what they think is funny all of the time. Instead, I think we should focus our attention on things that have more weight. Things like, what will tomorrow bring for Kim Kardashian? Like what is she going to put on Instagram, and will she and Kanye stay together? I don't know, but I just think if we spent more time thinking about the important things, it might be a better world. So, thank you.